So I'm going to invite everyone to put their palms together as we have Tan from Melbourne requesting the Dharma on your behalf.
恭敬大德上听，为是法会，济一切众生，精庄妙法论，教导我们如何了生脱悉离苦得殊胜无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering, and attain bliss, and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Okay, all together now. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Hello everyone, welcome to class number 16 of the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. As per every class, we will recite Medicine Master Buddha's name 7 times before we go into the text. So I'm going to invite everyone again to put your palms together. Namo quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 So for those of you who are hearing 2 voices instead of 1 and wondering what the second voice is, it's not someone who has forgotten to mute the microphone. It's Jin for sure. So Jin for sure is sitting next to me right now. And just about maybe, was it an hour since he tiam cheng Hong Kong. Tôi xin
this is yeah, do it 1.5.
Yeah, just about an hour and a half ago, Jin for sure came. He was standing outside my door with, there was a look on his face. I interpreted that look as I felt as if Jin for sure had something to share for today, so I asked Jin for sure. So Jin for sure can I chamka, meaning that was in Hokkien, meaning Jin for sure would like to join again this week, and he said yes. Jin for sure actually has a lot of things to talk about. He said when it comes to the 12 vows of Medicine Master Buddha. So I invited Jin for sure to share. And I said, Jin for sure said, oh, he will only take a bit of time. I said, no. First of all, it's not my class. This is a class on Medicine Master Buddha. Yeah, it's not mine at all. So I'm more than happy to share. I wish we had more monastics who could join us. So I'll let Jin for sure. We'll start. We'll start. Okay, so Jin for sure will begin. Yeah.
嗯，这个佛不是一个人的佛，是大家的佛，大家都可以一起共同修行。像我们这样子来研究这个药师经，这个是非常好。现在的时机当然有这个 virus 疫情的这个问题，然后我们能够用这个机会来了解，最重要就是我们要怎样子来调我们的身跟心。OK， Tom。
阿弥陀佛。
Amitabha, the Dharma master Jinghe says, the Buddha does not belong to anyone in particular, any single being. The Buddha belongs to everyone. And here today we come together to cultivate together and investigate and study the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. This is a very good time to do so during the virus and the pandemic. We are here learning how to regulate and harmonize our mind and our body.
像这个我们的身体要怎样子来调，就是要用像食物啊或者药物啊，这个就是物，就是一种调身。那我们的像药师佛就是调心，这个就算一个法，一个法药。所以有两种，一个是物药，还有一个是法药。
So as for the body, how do we regulate or harmonize it? We do it through food and drink or medicine. And that's how we take care of the body, through regulating it. As for the mind, with the study of the Medicine Master Sutra, we are here regulating and harmonizing our mind. And this is the Dharma, the medicine Dharma. And with the body is the material Dharma, but with the Medicine Master Sutra is the Dharma that is medicine.
所以这个像关于物外面的要怎样子来取得药，像现在那个世界各国也是在研究怎样子来研究出来是什么药能够治疗这个 virus 这个 COVID-19 这个病疫的药，所以这个是算外面的。那我们修行人最重要就是要往自己的心里面来看，这个是治心理的药。
As for the external world, all countries the world over, they're investigating and studying and trying to find a cure, a vaccine for the virus, for COVID-19. But for us who are cultivators of the way, we look inside, internally, to find a cure for our mind.
像这个外面的我们可以斟酌需要，但是最重要是要调我们自己内心的，这个最重要，因为这个外人没有办法帮你做，那就是我们要自己来调整我们自己心里面的贪嗔痴，这个最重要，因为很多事情都是由这个贪嗔痴起来的。
So the cure on the outside world, on the external world, that's for medicine for the body, but for us with our inner mind, how do we regulate and harmonize it? It's all up to us. No one can do it for us. And the thing we go about to do it is to find a way to do away with our greed, hatred, and delusion, because most things that arise are due to greed, hatred, and delusion.
在这个佛讲这个那时候的一个比喻经里面啊，有一个他说我现在就讲一个这个故事，就是给大家来分享。他说以前有一个人在山中里面修行啊，他山中当然山里面有很多的蚊虫啊，或者是最重要是蛇，蛇类的，这个是比较毒的，所以这个修行人他是很害怕这个蛇的这个问题，所以他就跑到树上去搭一个架子，搭一个就是床，可以睡觉。我想像这个搭树木上睡觉很多，我想在印尼啊或者是马来西亚很多有这样子的情况，就是说不要给毒虫去毒害。
So during the Buddha's time, the Buddha spoke of the Sutra of Parables, where the Buddha talked about the story. There was a person who cultivated deep in the mountains, and in the mountains there are little creatures abound. Is this Sutra of the Parables for sure? The Parable Sutra. So deep in the mountains there were all kinds of creatures, and most like snakes and everything, and this cultivator was very afraid of snakes. So to avoid this, he went up in a tree and created a bed where he can lay down to avoid the snakes.
因为他这个修行人也是在树上修行，然后在那里打禅坐，但是他不能够克服这个睡就是一打坐他就想睡觉的这个问题，所以这时候有这个问题，然后天人也看到这个天上的人啊，他也看到这个修行人的问题，所以就想办法怎样子来帮忙这个修行人。
And Dharma Master also said that in countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, like making beds where you can sleep in the trees is common. And so this cultivator, he sat in meditation on top of the tree. And so, but when he did this, one thing he couldn't do is to overcome his sleep. Whenever he would sit in meditation, he would feel sleepy. And there was a heavenly spirit who saw this and wanted to help him.
所以甚至于就在天人在天上就来笑他，给他还刑，但是他还这个没有用，所以他就还是在继续会打瞌睡、打坐、打瞌睡这样子的情况，所以天人啊，他就到半夜他打瞌睡的时候，就跟他说：“哦，蛇来了，蛇来了。” Yeah.
So the heavenly spirit would laugh at him in order to wake him up. But still, every time he sat in meditation, he would fall asleep. So next, the heavenly spirit in the middle of the night, he would yell out, "Oh, the snakes are coming! The snakes are coming!"
所以这个修行人一听到这个蛇来了，就马上就惊醒了。但是这样子一次两次都，但是他看怎么没有蛇？怎么看不到蛇？是这样子，他就跟这个天人讲说：“你这样子来整我，这样子不是很公道的，像这样子的话，像这样子是不好的。”
And so, when the cultivator heard this, oh, the snakes are coming. But 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, there were no snakes at all. So he thought, oh, how can the Heavenly Spirit mess me up like this? This is not right to play me like this.
所以这个修行人他就发怒，跟他说：“哎，你们这个天人啊，怎么还打妄语？还不我都看不到手，你怎么说有这个毒手来？所以这个这样子是不对的。但是这个天人就告诉这个修行人：你怎么不关你自己内心的毒蛇？”
So the cultivator got angry at the Heavenly Spirit and accused him of committing false speech. Say, you're lying. I don't even see any snakes, and you keep saying there are snakes are coming. And then the Heavenly Spirit in turn told the cultivator, why don't you contemplate the snakes within your own mind?
所以他这个天人就跟他讲，因为你身体里面有地水火风的这个4个蛇啊，这个你不除它，你在外面找蛇怎么找得到
？The Heavenly Spirit told the cultivator, within your body there are the 4 elements of earth, wind, fire, and air. And these 4 elements are the 4 elements of snakes, and you don't work to eliminate them. And so you are still looking outside for the snakes.
所以这个修行人他后来他自己就反省说：“哎，对哈，我自己要反观来看我自己的内心的4大毒蛇，还有包括贪嗔痴这些烦恼，所以我到现在都修行没有什么进步，所以他就这样子一个反省，然后自己来忏悔，然后他真的他就开始用功，从佛陀那时候的一个4圣谛开始来修行苦空无我的一些真理，所以他最后也得到了这个证到了这个阿罗汉果。
And so the cultivator woke up and thought, that's right, I should reflect within myself. There are the 4 elements of earth, wind, water, and fire, and these are the 4 elements of poisonous snakes, in addition to greed, anger, delusion, and afflictions. And that is why I have not made any advancement in my cultivation. I have not improved. And so he woke up, he repented, he worked really hard at his cultivation, and he cultivated and contemplated the 4 noble truths. And in the end, he certified to the fruit of our hardship.
所以我们读经怎么样子，都常常要反省内观，这个是最重要的。就是说，不要看外面的，看自己里面的心理，这样子来发挥，这样子来调心。这个是一种药师经它的一个法药。所以我们等一下金河法师他会讲说这个发愿一直，因为药师佛他有发12大愿，然后我想今天我的时间20分钟也是差不多。然后那个我另外也讲一下这个，我们有佛山Amitabha Section 3 days， 这个在July 4号跟5号、6号也有3天的佛山。那这个我们会有给大家做八关斋戒，还有写牌位，所以就在这边announce，然后希望你们有意参加八关斋戒都可以来参加。我们会在4号的早上8点钟开始。
And so when we read the sutras and study the sutras, the most important thing is to reflect inward, to look at our own minds. That is more important. Do not look outside and work within ourselves. So Dharma Master JinHe will lecture on the 12 vows that Medicine Master Buddha made. And these 12 vows are the Dharma of medicine for us. And so probably Jing Forshi said his time is up, but to conclude, Jing Forshi also announced that Berkeley Buddhist Monastery will hold a 3-day Amitabha session online from July 4th, July 5th to July 6th. And on the morning of July 4th at 8 o'clock, there will be transmission of the Eightfold Vegetarian Precepts. And also there will be plaques written up, and people can request to write 2 plaques.
所以要写牌位的也可以给我们名字，然后我们就会把牌位立上去，这样子。好，今天我跟大家在这里结法言到这里。好，阿弥陀佛。
So anyone who wishes to request the plaques can contact Berkeley Buddhist Monastery with the names. And so this is Dharma Master Jingfor's time to make the connection with everyone through the Dharma Amitabha.
Okay.
Lúc con chế lăng nói à? Chế kẻ tên là gì chế lăng?
Chế đề lăng.
Okay.
Chế đề cá tiếng à? Chế đề lăng.
Okay. So Jin Forshi said you can put up highways, one each person can set up 2. Okay.
好，有其他有问题还可以问JinHe法师。Yeah. Okay. 好，阿弥陀佛。Yeah.
Okay, Amitabha.
So how much must we put up for the one pai way?
Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, we have a policy. We don't charge for highways.
这个法师司法是定的，就是我们不讲钱的事情，但是你们要donate，我们你们就自己donate就可以。Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
阿弥陀佛。
Okay, Amitabha.
Okay, 阿弥陀佛。Yeah.
Okay, everyone, that was Jin Forshi. I thought Jin Forshi was going to say something about vows and doing something vows with from the heart, but it was just as good. Yeah. Okay. I speak to Jin Forshi in Hokkien, but Jin Forshi is from Taiwan. My Hokkien is Malaysian Rojak Hokkien because my mother speaks Northern Hokkien, my father's side speaks Southern Hokkien. So my Hokkien is not very good. Yeah, Jin Forshi can understand me. I don't really understand 100% of everything he says. Okay, so let's get back to the 12 vows. Oh, okay, let me help Jin Forshi. Oh, okay. Oh. Instead of going through all the 32 hallmarks, we can do 32 hallmarks slowly. If we have time at the end of every class, we can do some of the 32 hallmarks. So that means we get to go to the second vow. Yeah, we did the first vow. Technically the explanation for the first vow hasn't finished yet, but we can go and do the second vow, which you will see on your screen in front of you. But before we go to the second vow, I have a there's something all these 12 vows share in common with and I want all of you who are listening, and today there's very few of us, there's only 26 of us or 27, because I don't see many Malaysians online because they are mostly doing the Awatamsaka or the Fayan Fahoy that's being conducted by Ten Pian, our branch monastery in Kuala Lumpur. So most of them are joining that, which is really, really good. Yeah, so they're reciting the Flower Dormant Sutra in Chinese. So there's okay. So I want you all to think about what do all these vows have in common. I have a hint. It's 3, and it's what all bodhisattvas do. Okay, maybe by the end of the class you can someone can have an answer. Okay, so I'm gonna put my palms together. Let me change my cursor, and if you look on screen, the part where I have highlighted is the beginning of the second vow, which I'm going to recite. The second great vow. I vow that in a future life, when I attain Bodhi, my body will be as bright and clear. Let me change the page. As Vaidurya, flawlessly pure, vastly radiant, majestic with merit and virtue, abiding at ease, adorned with blazing nets brighter than the sun and the moon. Beings dwelling in darkness will be illuminated and will succeed in all their endeavors. So I've been trying to how would I put it? Come to terms with this vow, wrestling with the vow, trying to make it come alive through what little understanding I have. So I guess there has to be something in the part of the body. Okay, let me go back to it says, I vow in a future life when I attain Bodhi. Why does he say that? Because when you make these vows, he's not at that point in time, he wasn't Medicine Master Buddha yet. He was probably I'm not sure. I think you are definitely a bodhisattva. If I remember correctly, Shufu says that you make all these great vows when you're at the stage of a bodhisattva. So I guess maybe on the first ground, there are 10 grounds of a bodhisattva, which Rama Hong Shui is lecturing every week. Right now, he will come on, after this class, actually. And so, because if you understand where these vows come from, these vows are great vows. They are not small vows that the scope of the vows, that's the right word, are really great. So to be able to make a vow like that and to carry it out and to allow the vow to shape all your thoughts and your actions, I guess you have to be a first stage bodhisattva. So at that time, when he says attain Bodhi, meaning when he becomes a Buddha, he will have a body which will be as bright and clear as Vaidurya. Vaidurya, we've done this, I think, in an earlier class. It's like a flawless, pure, like a diamond-like substance. So, which is actually described in the next few lines. Pure, flawlessly pure, radiant, majestic with merit and virtue. Abiding at ease, reminds me of Guanyin in her abiding at ease pose. With blazing nets brighter than the sun and moon. So this body of his will illuminate beings dwelling in darkness and will succeed, so that all these beings dwelling in darkness will succeed in all their endeavors. Who are beings in darkness? People like us. I just realized that we tend to think in relative terms. So from the Bodhisattva's point of view, I would be someone dwelling in darkness, which is ignorance. We've talked about light being a metaphor for wisdom. So, and then Bodhisattva, enlightened beings will see us unenlightened beings as beings in darkness. Whereas in my mind, when I was reading that sentence and in previous times, when I see beings dwelling in darkness, is that me? No, that's not me. I'm thinking about beings like animals or beings in the hell realms or people who are more, ignorant than me. People less on the path than I am. Isn't it funny how we tend to sometimes not see ourselves as the beings in darkness? But from a Buddha, Bodhisattva's point of view, we are the beings in darkness. So his second vow has to do with the nature of his body, and that's a metaphor that we have to crack, that will enable us to be successful in all our endeavors. And it's something that how you say, is not only in walking the path. I think this has to do with wanting beings to be happy, succeed in all endeavors. Yeah. So this vow is some of the other vows I can like really understand a bit more. This vow requires me to be, I guess, my mind to be a lot more quiet than it is right now, to get into it. Okay, we have Ron is asking, what are blazing nets? Okay, blazing nets, you know, the Brahma, I think what comes to mind is the Brahma Net Sutra. In the Avatamsaka Sutra and the Brahma Net Sutra, it describes nets as like a lattice of interconnected jewels, like pearls. They are like money pearls in every junction of where the cords or the fabric of the nets meet. And it's not a net like a literal net. The net is a metaphor for something else, and I have to investigate what it is. But they say a net can cover the entire Dharma realm. And yeah, that's something I really have to, I should have done that before today's class. Yeah, that skipped my mind. I was more, my mind was more on the third and the fourth vows, which we will come to. Yeah, maybe in the next class. Okay. So let's go to the third vow. The third great vow. I vow that in a future life, when I attain Bodhi, I will, by means of limitless, unbounded wisdom and skill in means, enable all sentient beings to obtain an inexhaustible supply of material necessities, so they are without the slightest one. Isn't this interesting? Meaning, anything you want, you will get. I'm not sure if it covers, like, you know, the latest iPad, or if you want like a Ferrari, but it does say any material necessity that you want, so that you don't have anything else. Everything that you need, you will get. So this is the third great vow. So two things stand out in this, which is wisdom and skill in means. So I guess wisdom would then mean that the Bodhisattva or Medicine Master Buddha will know exactly what you need that is helpful, because he uses wisdom. He knows. He doesn't give you something that you think you might want or you might really need at that point in your life, but will end up harming you in the future. What are those? There are a lot of things like that. Things that distract us, for example, things that confuse us, like alcohol, drugs, although it may be very helpful in the short term to alleviate suffering, but in the future, in the long run, it just increases your suffering. So with wisdom, he knows exactly what you need based on your own causes and conditions. Okay, and the second one, which I find really interesting too, is skill in means. What are skill in means? Skill in means is, as the name implies, is a skill. It's being able, is the ability to say and do to carry out what you want to carry out, so you get the desired outcome. For example, I have very good intentions. Okay, expedience, as Tan just typed out in the chat box. Yes, expedience. Skill in means is also known as expedience. So let's say someone like myself, I try to develop good intentions. I want to help people. I want people to feel happy. But if you don't have the right skill, say in language, in being able to develop kind speech, if I don't know how to speak properly, I may have the best intentions in the world, but if I speak to someone in a very rude way, or when you try to say you want to give someone advice, but you don't say it in a manner that's pleasing, you haven't developed that skill yet, you won't be able to get your point across. So skill in means is something that's really, really important, because you have to be effective. You want to be effective. So it is my personal understanding that as a bodhisattva progresses to the 10 grounds until they become a Buddha, skillful means is what the bodhisattva learns. And skillful means or expedience is the difference between an arhat and a practical Buddha, compared to a bodhisattva or a Buddha. It is said that solitary enlightened ones or practical Buddhas, if anyone does not know what the term practical Buddha means, please put it in the chat box or unmute your mic. Julie, your mic is unmuted. Do you have something you want to say? Oh, she just muted her mic. I guess not. Okay, so it is said that for example, like practical Buddhas, solitary enlightened ones, that they have wisdom, but they are unable to save other living beings. Meaning, how I come to understand that is I think it's a combination of experience, skill in means, and also in building affinities with living beings, so that you have the right to create the right conditions, so that you have a way to reach across to them. So the traditional image of a practical Buddha is someone, as the name implies, solitary enlightened. They are alone by themselves. So solitary enlightened means that when there is no Buddha in this world, what they do is they contemplate the 12 conditions, the 12 links, through an observance of nature, I think, and through that they achieve enlightenment. Whereas the arhat or the sound hearers, they contemplate the Four Noble Truths, and then they end birth and death in that way. So because the arhats or the sound hearers and the practical Buddhas do not spend time or have not had the opportunity to create positive affinities with living beings and to learn the skills that are needed to get across to living beings, they lack that ability to save living beings. So living beings are really, really hard to save because we have to be happy first. It's not easy to save living beings. Okay, Lim has a question. Hearers are also arhats. Arhats are also known as sound hearers. Sound hearers is a term that encompasses us as well, because we learn through sound, like what everyone is doing right now. Our ear faculty is really important for us. So when the Buddha was around, he propagated the Dharma through sound. So we are known as sound hearers, and sound hearers is also another term for the arhats, and we'll come to that actually in, I think, vow number 4 or number 5. Yeah. So one thing a bodhisattva does, which arhats and practical Buddhas do not do, is something we covered in our WhatsApp group last week, which is the 4 methods of attraction, also known as Samgraha Vastu in Sanskrit. What are the 4 methods of attraction? They are generosity. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is kind words. Number 3 is helpfulness, which is teaching others to fulfill their aims. Okay, and number 4 is acting in accordance with one's own teachings, meaning you're not a hypocrite. You have a consistency between, there is a consistency between the things that you say and the things that you do. Okay, so this is what the bodhisattvas learn. It's also known as how you say, a way of converting people or attracting, sometimes they call it as attracting disciples, but it's just a way of attracting people to the Dharma. Yeah. So you have to be very generous. You can't be selfish. You have to learn proper, how you say, skillful speech that's kind. You make people happy. You make people feel good about themselves. You don't scold people. You know, you learn how to praise people, and then you learn how to use the principles of the Dharma in applying them to everyday life, so that you make it relevant for all the beings around you. And finally, and the most importantly, is you practice what you preach. You live your life according to the Dharma. Okay, and then let's go to then the fourth great vow. Do we have any questions? I know last week there were some questions about the 8 precepts. Is there anyone online who has any questions about the 8 precepts? You can either type into the chat box, because I just want to know how much time to allocate to that. Do I need to allocate any time? Okay, we'll see. All right. Okay, the 4th great vow. I vow that in a future life, when I attain Bodhi, I shall lead those sentient beings who practice deviant paths to reside in the way of Bodhi, and those who travel on the vehicles of the hearer or Prachika Buddha to abide in a great vehicle. Okay, so few things stand out. Okay, deviant paths. Okay, what do I think when we talk about deviant paths? Well, you know, paths that how you say, scary. No, that's not the right way. Deviant paths. Teachings that that will lead you into the hells. That's what comes to my mind when we talk about deviant paths. But deviant paths is you can look at deviant paths in that way. But in Buddhism, I believe deviant paths are also called external paths, and these are paths that do not lead to an end of suffering. So these are external because they look outside. Instead of focusing through meditation to your own mind, within your own mind, instead what you do is you depend on things that are outside for your own salvation. So that's what's defined as deviant path, and that is a wide scope, meaning like those, how you say, evil, that includes evil spirits, evil deeds, all the way to even different religions that do not lead to enlightenment. Okay, so another thing that came to my mind when we talk about deviant paths is that we have as opposed to the Bodhisattva, a lot of people have a tendency of looking down or criticizing people that we classify as being in an external or a deviant path. Whereas the Bodhisattva here has a very different outlook, perspective. When he sees someone who is not on the way of Bodhi, which is way of path of enlightenment, he wants to lead them away from that. So all he has is kindness, compassion, goodness in his heart to lead them away from ignorance towards wisdom. So that's something that I found outstanding in this vow. Why do we have a tendency of, I'll speak for myself. Okay, I know that when my habit, maybe not so much now, but definitely before, is when I see people following external paths, I tend to look down and criticize, and especially those people who are following the really deviant ones. And I realized that a lot of that comes from my own lack of understanding of what I'm doing. And before, when my understanding or my approach to the Buddha's teachings were mostly based on faith rather than understanding, that would happen a lot, because I realized that when my understanding was not based on right view or proper understanding, I would feel my ground was shaky, my foundation was shaky, and I would feel threatened. I remember going to a different away place. It wasn't a Buddhist monastery, and I felt afraid for myself. But I realized that fear was because I didn't really understand what Buddhism meant. So I still had a lot of confusion. I didn't know how to use the teachings of the Buddha to improve myself. And because of that led me to a pushing away of what other people were practicing. So then the Buddha says, not only will he lead people who practice deviant paths to recite the way of Bodhi, but those who travel on the vehicles of the hearer, okay, the hearer are arhats or practical Buddhas, he will bring them to abide in a great vehicle. Okay, and immediately when I saw this part of the vow, I thought about the Lotus Sutra. Okay, let me look at the chat box before I go there. So Carrie Ui says, do you practice upholding the precepts for months before mastering the courage to take up the precepts? Okay. Okay, let's reserve a few minutes before the end of the class for that. Okay, I'll continue with this. Okay, so in the Lotus Sutra, this is really interesting. The Buddha talks about three cuts. Okay, so there's a parable of the burning house in the Lotus Sutra, and this parable of the burning house, actually I should read it as a story, because it's I'll give you the short version, and maybe in the next class I'll introduce you to that passage of the Lotus Sutra. So in this section of the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha is seen as a father, and all living beings are seen as his children. Why? Because the Buddha's regard for living beings is similar to as a parent for their own children. You only want the best. You always want your children to be happy, to get what they want, to have no suffering, or to minimize any suffering that they might have, and yeah, to have like a carefree life, right? Okay, so in this part of the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha or the father sees all their children in a burning house. Okay, what's a burning house? The burning house is a metaphor for our lifespans. All our bodies are going to end. You're not going to live forever. The burning house can also be seen as samsara, as in we come back, rebirth again and again and again. And every time we come back, there's potential for suffering. But because we are little children, and we, how children are unaware of the realities of life. So we are unaware that, number one, that the house is burning. So what do? This house isn't a really nice house anyway. So we are busy in the house playing with all kinds of dangerous items. We don't recognize the dangers in the things in the house. For example, running around with scissors, you know, with knives, we should never do, because we are children. We don't realize that if we fall, we might land on the knife, or we might poke out an eye or something, you know. There are dangerous chemicals in the house that we may not recognize as dangerous, and we might drink it. I go for morning walks every day, and this one of the things that came to my mind when I was thinking about the Lotus Sutra this morning was how around the world, like even now, a lot of people die from alcohol poisoning, or they sometimes mistake methanol for alcohol, and they drink it and they either go blind or they die. So as adults, even don't talk about children, as adults, people like ourselves, we don't understand the nature of the causes that we plant. So the Father or the Buddha is trying to get us out from the house, and it is said that this house has only one way out. There's only one door out from this burning house. Okay, so what does he do? He tells them that there are 3 carts waiting outside the house. Okay, he says there's a cart that's pulled by a sheep, and this sheep represents the sound hearer vehicle, like us, or the arhats. And then he says there's another cart that's being pulled by deer, and this represents the Prajeka Buddha vehicle, people who gravitate towards the towards contemplating the 12 conditioned links. And then he says there's a third cart that's pulled by an ox, and this ox represents the Bodhisattva vehicle, people whose heart naturally gravitates towards wanting to save living beings. So I guess at that time the 3 carts would probably mean, for someone like myself, it would probably mean, you know, like a sports car, probably, like, hey, there's a Ferrari outside. If you like Ferraris. If not, you know, there's an Aston Martin outside. And if you don't like an Aston Martin, then there's probably a Porsche, or what other you know, fancy cars, a Lamborghini, for example. Different cars for different people, depending on what you like. So the Father or the Buddha gives us what our heart desires, which is represented by these 3 carts, so the 3 vehicles. But when we get out of the house, what do we find instead? Instead, we find a splendid cart that's not pulled by a sheep, a deer, or a regular ox, but a cart that is full of treasures. It is full of all the precious things that you could ever want, and it's a gold cart. Okay, it's not like a wooden cart. It's a gold cart, and you have attendants. Actually, I think in the sutra it says the attendants are there to protect the cart. And what's pulling the cart? A magnificent white, pure, I say a flawless white ox, muscular, you know, like perfect in proportions. It looks like the greatest ox you could ever imagine, and that's pulling the cart. So I guess it's like, you know, for someone like me, instead of finding, you know, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, or Aston Martin, or Porsche, maybe there's a jet waiting for me when I finally get out. So that's the Lotus Sutra, and that was what came to my mind when I talk about when this vow has the hearers, Prajeka Buddhas, and to reside in a great vehicle. Okay, we have about like 4 minutes left. Let me look at the chat box, and maybe next week we'll recite that passage in the Lotus Sutra, because I think it's a really wonderful passage to recite. Let me see. This is sent to me privately. It says, okay, I guess I can read this out loud. There's nothing personal here. Say, for sure, to practice the precept against killing purely, my understanding is one should abstain from meat. Does this also mean we can't prepare foods for one who is sick and eats meat if we want to keep it purely? should we also abstain from pungent plants? Okay, pungent plants is a different principle from the meat eating and killing. Meat eating has to do, yes, in our understanding as how Shifu taught us, the precept against killing or non-harming extends to living beings, not just humans. So that would mean that's why in our association, the RBA, when you take the 5 precepts, you are taught to go vegetarian. Okay, I know different. There are different Buddhist associations out there that have a different view. But in our association, Shufu taught us, yes, no killing, 5 precepts, meaning abstaining from meat. Shufu also says that this has to do with compassion. It's really hard to explain, because compassion is a state of being, and yeah, all I can say is that if you still consume meat in your diet and you are contemplating the 5 precepts, and connecting this with Carrie's question about, do you practice upholding the precepts for months before mastering the courage to take up the precepts? I have learned that when it comes to the Dharma, and it is like the precepts, you know it is something good, just do it. You do what it takes to be able to uphold it. Meaning, if tomorrow you have an opportunity to take the 5 precepts, don't think. Just do it, and then you try your best after that. But that's just my personal experience. We don't have enough time to get into to why. We have maybe, let me see, check the time again. We have 3 minutes left. Okay, and then let me look at okay, so the second part of the question is about preparing food for others. Preparing food for people that under a special diet and is underweight. So, well, that is your personal, that has to be a personal decision that you make. No one can tell you what you need to do. You have to come to terms with your own decision. All I can say is that as long as, okay, all I can say is that always consider kindness, compassion, and your intention. And don't just think about yourself, think about the other living beings too. And living beings are not just human beings, you know, they also extend to sentient beings. And if you go into the gray area, there are a lot of things that you can try. For example, like, you know, if you want to go into talk about gaining weight, there are many ways to gain weight and to have a healthy body, in fact have a healthier body through a plant-based diet rather than meat. So depending on your affinities with this person, have you tried, you know, different, presenting this person with different alternatives and information and educating this person, but not do it with you have to develop skillful means. Skillful means, yes, very important. And develop proper affinities with this person, so that whatever you said is this person would want to hear or to pay attention to. So there's a lot of things that you can do to lay the groundwork to be able to help others. Okay, and finally, yeah, and also get a doctor's opinion. You know, don't listen to what anyone else, you know, talk to physicians, nutritionists. Pungent plants, yes, of course we should refrain from pungent plants if you can, because it's not helpful for our emotions. As well as if you really practice and you recite the mantras, you don't want to have pungent plants in your diet. Okay, any final questions for today? I guess there's no questions about the 8 precepts. Okay, anyone has any feedback about what the vows have in common? No?
It's all for the living beings. I mean,
Yes, that's one. Thank you very much, Tan. Yes, it all has to do with living beings. Okay. But that's only part of the answer. There is more. There is actually a term, and it has the word tree in it. All right. So we're going to dedicate merit. Let me bring out the slide. Okay, I'm going to invite everyone to put your palms together. Dedication of merit. I'm not sure if yes, we have spoken on this before. So think about who you want to who you would like to benefit. It can be someone personal to you, or it could be living beings. The wider you are able to open your heart out, as how the Earth Star Bodhisattva Sutra says it, the greater the effect. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Alright everyone, we'll see you all next week. Amitabha.